On this week's episode of Comics Controllers, we talk about all new X-Men. Well, they're not really new because they've been around for a while because they're from the past, but there's also some... Well, anyways, it's this crazy time plot. You always have to listen to see if you can get it. We also talk about early access games and how they're destroying the PC industry. All that and more on this, episode 5, Early X-Men. Welcome back to another episode of Comics and Controllers. As always, I'm Kyle, joined by my co-host Steven.
How's it going, Kyle?
It's going pretty good, Steven. So this week, we wanted to talk about the all-new X-Men.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about the all-new X-Men, Steven.
All-new X-Men was one of the books for the Marvel Now when they were kind of trying to reset a lot of their storylines and get rid of some of the lesser liked elements. Kind of bring a good point to bring in new readers. At least that was the whole theory. I think they actually kind of failed at that, as most of the stories you still had to know a lot of information, and as we discussed with many of the X-Men titles, you still had to know what happened in AVX and all that to kind of have the whole backstory. But it was a good point to get someone who may have known about some X-Men stuff and not had been reading it for a while, to get them to jump back in.
Okay.
The storyline for that one, though, is written by Brian Michael Bendis, whom I'm a big fan of, and Stuart Immonen. But it took over as the kind of flagship X-Men book that Uncanny X-Men used to be like their main X title, and All New X-Men kind of took over for that position. Yeah,
and so in All New X-Men, the premise is that the fallout from the whole Phoenix 5 situation's kind of there. You've got Cyclops has gone off to go do his own thing with Magneto and I guess like Emma Frost and Magic, and I don't want to say like they're like the Brotherhood, but they don't necessarily follow Xavier's dream anymore. They have this weird distorted vision of it that they're following.
Right. They've become almost militant about Xavier's dream.
Yeah, and about rounding up mutants so they can basically get together and not necessarily form an army, but form some kind of, like you said, military group almost to help mutants. But so
he wants to do aggressive protection. That's his whole idea. Their goal is to protect the mutant race, but they've gotten to the point where to protect the mutant race, they're embracing the we have to fight side.
Okay. Rather than the hey, we're a school where we educate side.
Right.
So
they do start their new base. They call it the Xavier Institute, since the old school is now called the Jean Grey Institute.
Yeah, it's kind of like, and they all get pissed because Cyclops is the one who jacked Xavier.
Right.
But so what happens then is that Hank McCoy just thinks, well, you know what? Maybe the only way for Cyclops to not get this way is for him to see how he once was. So he decides it's a good idea to use this time cube that he has to travel back in time and get the original 5 X-Men and bring them to the present.
And as
hijinks ensue.
And I believe, as you said, sometimes being the brightest guy in the room doesn't always mean you think clearly.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of times in Marvel comics, or maybe comics in general, that the smartest person tends to do the stupidest stuff. And like this
Reed
is just
Richards.
Yeah, Reed Richards is a prime example. I mean, Reed Richards is the man who let's create a giant prison in the negative zone. Okay, that sounds like a really smart idea, but what about all the other monsters and things that live in the negative zone? There's a portal you've got to leave open for them to come through as well as you. But other dumb stuff he's done. But so Beast has this time cube for a short amount of time, and the first thing he does is travel back in time and bring the original 5 X-Men with him to the present. And there's not a single person he talks to that's like, that's a good idea. They're all like, what were you thinking, you moron?
Oh, yeah. Also, I think in his defense, we should point out that he believes he is dying at this point, and I think that he believes this is his last good effort to try to set things right before he dies.
Yeah, but that's still a weak excuse.
Right. I'm not saying it's a good defense, but I think that's what he was thinking.
Yeah, well, that also deals with another problem. You're talking about he's dying. I mean, within like 2 issues of them being in the present, he's no longer dying.
Yeah.
That's a comic issue in general. Things that are like these big deals, and then suddenly like, 10 issues talking about it, 1 page to wrap it up.
I don't think that was a big issue in the long run, and so they wanted to go ahead and get that out of the way, taken care of, not drag it out.
It's just a catalyst for this storyline.
Right.
So, but yeah, and one of the things that goes on throughout the story is that the original X-Men find out what's happened to them since they were kids. And of course, they don't want to go back. I mean, you tell Jean Grey what's happened, and she's like, I'm not going back. You know what's going to happen to me if I do? Forget that. She's like, Xavier's going to make us all forget as soon as he knows what happened, and I'm not going to let that happen.
Right. And I love how they know, without a shadow of a doubt, that Xavier is going to wipe their minds once they tell him, or he finds out. I mean, he's the world's greatest telepath. Once he finds out what happened to them,
of course,
that shit's done.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, there's no way. And that's kind of what I think Beast banks on when he brings them to the present, is that's what's going to happen too, is that I'll bring them up here, they'll talk, and Scott will see him, and he'll be like, oh, look at me, blah, 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 and he'll change his ideas, and then they'll go back, and Xavier will wipe their minds, and they'll never know about it.
Maybe. But I don't know. Here's my thing also, though. No one told Jean Grey what was going to happen to her. She developed her psychic powers, and I think they even kind of hint that the time travel causes her psychic abilities to manifest faster than they would have had Beast not interfered.
Well, yeah, that, and she's told that, oh yeah, at some point you're a very powerful telepath.
Yeah,
and I think she just kind of like, really? And then she tries and it happens.
Right. And so no one exactly tells her everything that happens to her. She reads Kitty Pryde's and I want to say Bobby Drake's mind. She reads 2 people's minds, and it's basically like, oh, crap.
Yeah. She's a nosy Nancy, too, with that telepathy. She's in everybody's head. It does not matter, man. They actually yell at her constantly about it.
Right. How many times they you can't do that?
Yeah, Kitty's always getting in her face about it. But so, yeah, after all this happens, that these original X-Men refuse to go back. And stuff starts happening that's like, weird like relationships occur. Like there's like a moment where Jean and like Beast
hook up,
like young Beast hook up, and then like her and Cyclops start to kind of hook up, and then like she's not interested in either one of them because she sees what they're thinking about her, like these negative thoughts they have about her and stuff. So it starts creating these kind of odd relationships. And
again, that all goes back to her being nosy with her psychic powers, because she gets in Beast's head when they're fixing the motorcycle or whatever, and finds out, oh, he's had a thing for me since we were like 15 or whatever. Mm-hmm. So of course that's what leads to that.
Yeah, and then like at one point, Cyclops, he's trying to. This basically they're taken from the moment right before Cyclops told Jean Grey how he felt about her when they were kids, and so he goes to the safety deposit box. Evidently, he's kept since he was a child. So like. He even knew that he would have it as an adult. He goes in there, and he has their wedding invitations, and he gives it to her as a kind of a like, hey, look what's supposed to happen to us. And she doesn't take that well.
Well, that was a horrible idea.
Well, yeah, Cyclops is not really known for good ideas in general.
That is true.
I mean, that's what this whole storyline's about, is Cyclops and his bad ideas.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I actually really like Cyclops as a character when he's done right. Cyclops can be a great character, but lately, ever since AVX, because when they were on Utopia and he had all these ideas about how to take Xavier's dream and actually improve on it, there were a lot of his ideas. I was like, that's not a bad idea. That's probably what I would have done in his situation. And then as soon as AVX and everything with the Phoenix Force hits, it's all downhill for Cyclops.
Yeah, Cyclops has always been a very boring character to me. I just don't. He's almost background noise half the time. Or it's just like, God, why do you got to go to somebody who's interesting? I've never liked him.
He's the leader of the team, man. Come on.
I know, that's the problem. That's why I don't usually read the comic that he's the leader of the team for. Yeah. I'll read the other X books where it's like somebody else is doing stuff. But
I do also like when Angel meets Archangel. And that's the other one where, they have this moment of like, why do you have metal wings?
Yeah, I don't think Angel actually finds out what's happened to him in the present, but he knows it's enough that traumatized him mentally, so where he's like completely unstable and doesn't even live within reality.
Right. Well, he knows that at one point he becomes a bad guy. Because that's explained. I don't remember which issue exactly, but he knows at one point, things get really dark for him. And I mean, obviously, if you have these realistic things attached to you, and then you see, okay, at some point I'm going to lose those and have to get metal ones. You can pretty much assume from that point.
Yeah, that's true. But at some point in the run of this all new X-Men, there's an event, an X-Men, one of these crossover events that happens. Right. Is it Battle of the Atom or Children of the Atom? I think it's Battle for the Atom.
It's Battle of the Atom, yeah.
And basically the premise of this concept, of this event, is that these people from this now future, the future where we have to remember one thing in the Marvel Universe, there's about 400 futures because of all the time events that have happened and people who've traveled through time and whatever. But so there's now a new future that occurs because the past X-Men are in the present and they alter, the going ahead future. And so these X-Men from the future come back in time basically saying, you need to send these people back because it's just going to jack everything up.
Yeah.
All right, so...
Which, how no one thought of that before the people warned, I don't get.
Yeah. To me, this is my problem with that event, is that that event is basically the epitome of what is wrong with comic books. It is hey, we're going to do this event. It's a crossover between all these books, and we're going to have something happen. Okay, so what the something happening was these guys come back from the future. They're going to basically go ahead and convince these X-Men they need to go back or convince everybody to send them back. And they'll be gone. That's what was supposed to happen, or what it looked like. It was going to be the end of it. No, that's not what happened. They come back. Turns out they're not necessarily good. So then some of them go to the future. Some of the present X-Men go to the future to get these other people and ask them what happened. They find out. They bring them back with them. So now there's more people from the future in the past or the present, while the past is in the present. Isn't that just, ridiculous? But
is there anyone on that team that has a good idea?
No, but so basically they then fight and they defeat these people. Who one of the bad people is the Jean Grey from the past who's brought to the present, who's lived this entire time, and she's like ridiculously powerful and gone crazy.
Oh, God.
And so they take her out and take them all out. And the series, and the event ends with the past X-Men still in the present. The future X-Men have gone home. Nothing has changed. This event occurred and nothing changed. That was what made me so angry about it. And the way it crossed over is it crossed over 4 series. So you had to be reading all 4 series or picking up these individual issues of those series, plus the individual issues as part of that. And they weren't like contained stories within the series. It was like issue 1 was a standalone, issue 2 is in Uncanny, issue 3 was in All New, issue 4 was in X-Men. Then it's like issue 5 was in Uncanny, issue 6 was in All New, 7 in X-Men, and then 8 was a standalone.
Right.
And it's very complicated to try to read it like that, especially if like you're like me and I'm going back reading up from the beginning. And I'm like, I'm not reading these other stories. I don't know what's going on with those. So,
and I think the big thing that changes at the end, and the only thing that's really substantial that comes out of that, other than a giant fight and kind of the cool factor of seeing this alternate future, some readers like to see that, is that it does shake up the ranks of the current X-Men teams. You do see Kitty and 5 originals go to Cyclops' side. Yeah,
they joined Cyclops and Magneto's team.
Right, which is interesting because I think it would take an event like that. I would have never thought that would happen. But, I agree with you. I think more should have happened for that to warrant a crossover event.
Well, Angel had already been with them. Like, he had already left. He was like, I don't like these people I don't like this Wolverine guy. He kills folks and all this craziness. They didn't want to be around him. And a couple of times the other ones had talked about leaving too, and eventually they all dipped. And Kitty dipped because she didn't want to send the old X-Men. I think she didn't want to send the X-Men back to the past, and everyone was against her. And she told them that she didn't think it was right because there was something going on. Mm-hmm. And so she left because basically all those people in the mansion doubted her. So she was just like, F you guys, and peaced out and went with Cyclops and took those 5 with her.
Right, yeah.
But the only good thing that's come of that, though, is I like the character Magic, and Magic's with them, and Magic and Kitty Pryde are always friends, so there's you get to see that friendship between those two again, but that's really minor. It's not like something that's like, I've been dying to see this. Like, I could really care less.
Was I haven't gotten quite as far as you. Was the first thing that happened when they met again was like, hey, why did you dump my brother?
No. They're at terms with that. Though they are
Okay.
concerned because no one's seen Colossus for a while. They don't know what's up with them. After that
Yeah.
whole Phoenix 5 thing, like Magic thinks like he's mad at her, and Kitty's just like, oh, he'll come around.
Well, because he still has the Juggernaut powers also right now.
Oh, I didn't even know. I didn't even know that.
During Fear itself, he received I'm sorry, it might have been right before Fear itself, but that was a big issue with Fear itself, was him getting the Juggernaut powers.
Jim
And
Sidorak.
Sidorak, yeah, he so he's Colossus plus Juggernaut powers now.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Why? That to me, it's like, why give it to somebody who basically already is the Juggernaut? Because that's what
Okay,
Colossus' powers basically were.
I can't answer that, but the storyline wise, they had to give it to someone.
Should give it
or
to like
else
Jubilee or somebody ridiculous.
Yeah.
It'd be like Jubilee, the Vampire Jubilee is the Juggernaut.
Yeah.
That'd
That
been
would have been pretty
hilarious.
crazy. But basically,
Or
Magic was going to fight Sidorak in Hell, and Colossus realized if Sidorak had a champion, quote unquote, he wouldn't have a need to fight, so he agreed to be the new Juggernaut.
So did King Marco die or something? I know at one point he was working with the X-Men.
I don't think he died. I honestly, I really don't know what happened to him. I just remember he lost his powers.
Ah.
And it had something to do with the Fear itself stuff, because Sidorak was one of the people. I think Sidorak just told him, "Hey, you're not a really good Juggernaut. Go F off," you know.
Yeah. But, I mean, overall, All New X-Men, I like it. I read it. There's a lot of, like, things with it. But most of my problems with it is just, like, problems with comic books in general, like the event type stuff.
Right.
That's something you just have to deal with, though, because you know it's going to come. But truthfully, the way I see it is you could not have read those event issues of any of those comics, just saw what it was about in the conclusion, and that would have been all you needed.
Yeah,
Because that event was worthless.
I agree with you about the event. Up until the event, I've really enjoyed this comic. It's Bendis, and I know a lot of people say he's a little too talky, but I think the best thing in this comic is the relationships between these old X-Men from the past and the current X-Men, and especially the meeting. I think we discussed it, between Jean Grey meeting Rachel Summers. So not only does she realize how screwed up her past is, she realized how screwed up she and Cyclops and everybody else have these kids, and all this, just everything is so messed up for them.
Yeah, there's a great scene the first time they meet. They don't say anything to each other. They just, like, see each other, and they're quiet, and they just walk by. Like, they know. They just automatically know.
Well, they both telepathy each other.
Yeah.
'Cause it's the bathroom scene. She's
Yeah.
waiting on the bathroom, yeah.
So,
That is a great moment.
but, yeah, I mean, the discussions between some of them are pretty good. Like, there's one talk where young Bobby Drake is talking to young Beast, and he's saying, how much he hates Professor Kitty. It's like, I hate her. I can't stand her. She's so terrible, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, what makes it even worse is I think older me and her are dating, and then you see both of them outside, like, making out.
Right,
And he's
yeah.
like, oh, my God, it's so disgusting to even think about. Why would I do that? He's like,
Yeah.
it was just, if you think, like, he's so young compared to the rest of them, especially at that
Yes.
point, that's understandable why he would kind of be like, oh, my God, I hate my teacher. Why would I even want to be with her? Blah, 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 blah.
Right. That was a pretty good scene, and it did remind me that they're all very young, but he's the youngest out of all of them.
Yeah, I think he's, like, at that time, he'd been, like, 14 or 13 or something.
Might
like,
have
really
been
young.
13. Yeah, he might have been 13, because I think Jean Grey's 15, right?
Yeah, I think so, 15 or 16. Because it's not, like, in the beginning exactly. It's a little bit ways down the line, but
Because Scott is the oldest, I think,
Yeah.
of the five. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I know he's the one who supposedly was there the longest, but that's about all I know. I don't remember how he relates to, like, the rest of them.
Yeah.
But so yeah,
Well,
it's not a bad series. It's worth reading. But you just be careful when you get to the Battle of the Atoms, the Battle of the Atoms stuff. It's kind of really not really worth reading.
And overall, I will definitely continue to read this.
Oh yeah,
Because I think even though if there's a bad part in the middle, I'm enjoying it enough overall that I want to keep up with it.
agreed. All right, so moving on from our comics discussion into our video game discussion, we're going to talk about what is ruining PC games. What event in the PC gaming industry is pulling it down into oblivion so it won't exist anymore?
And do you really feel that this is ruining PC gaming?
Okay, so what we're talking about is early access games. For those who don't know what an early access game is, the greatest example, and the one that probably spawned what we're going through now with them, is Minecraft. Mm-hmm. So Marcus Pearson, or Notch as he's more commonly known, who created Minecraft, he basically he made it because a game he wanted to play didn't exist anymore. The game failed in development. So he's like, well, I'm going to make a game like it. So he did. And because he was just like a dude who's not really trained in programming as far as I remember, he starts making it, and then he's just selling it, the alpha version of it. Like, hey, you want to play this early access game I'm playing? When the full version's out, you'll get it for free. It was like cheap. It was like $5 or $10 in the alpha stages.
I think it was $5 in the alpha, yeah.
And so as time went on and more people started buying it, and they actually went into full beta, and he actually had people who was working with him to do it, he was like, well, I'll charge $20 or $15 or something like that for the beta.
It was $15 for the beta for a long time. Okay.
So yeah, it was something like $15 or $20 for the beta, and then when the full game comes out, you'll have it, already. And then once the game finally went full release, now it's up to a full $30. Okay, so that was really the first one of these games that did this whole pay to get in early and play all the way through. Since then, it's become like an epidemic in the PC gaming industry. There's so many early access games that are out there. And now, some people like it because it means that if there's this game that you really are looking forward to, you can get into it, and you can play it while it's coming out, you can see it, you can even help to them work through the bugs and stuff like that, and it gets you in there earlier than everybody else, so you kind of understand how it works.
A lot of them also offer rewards.
Yeah.
If you come in and you get in at this point in the game, once the game fully releases, you'll get, blank extra skins, extra items, titles, whatever, depending on the game.
Exactly. So people, always want to collect that type of stuff, and it's just another incentive for those people to buy the games. Now, the problem, though, that a lot of people have with this is that these games may never be done. These games might never be completed. And my biggest problem with it is that these early access games, if you get into it in an alpha and they're super buggy, some of them are almost unplayable, or they're not even basically what the game will be like.
Yeah.
So many games change from alpha to full release, almost 100% change, that it could be a completely different game by the time it comes out.
Right. And the idea behind what the company's doing is not only do they get early money to help fund it, but they get this free, depending on how many they let in and how successful the game is in this stage, they get a free army of beta testers and people to go find the bugs and report them in and everything like that.
Yeah, but I think the problem with that is that a lot of these people they're not wanting to beta test like beta test used to be used for. It's like, hey, right, I'll beta test this game. It'll give me a chance to play in advance, but I can also work through bugs. That's what I remember beta testing for. So you would report hey, there's a glitch in this quest or whatever, and they would get the feedback and they could fix it. People just want to play the games now, and that's what they're pitching these early access as, hey, play this game, not, hey, help us make this game.
No, and I agree, but I think it should be pointed out that that's what the developers see. A lot of these early access people, hey, fund us, also help, you get to go around and tell us what's wrong with this. But I agree that a lot of people, I don't think, understand that's what they're kind of signing up for.
I mean, it's like this weird version of Kickstarter where they're already making the game and they just need more money to finish it, so they start selling it early. Hey, it's not done. You can mess around with it, but, we need your money.
And they do warn people. A really good example, and one that kind of drew a lot of attention, was DayZ. And they warn you up front, hey, this game's not finished. Hey, there are going to be some bugs. I believe it's Starbound even warns you, about there could be character wipes. You could lose all your information. Mm-hmm. So it's not like that. There's no warning to tell these players, hey, this is an unfinished game. But the problem is there's also no guarantee of when it will be finished. Minecraft, I don't. Is it even still finished? I mean, I know it's considered finished, but I mean, they're always changing it.
Yeah, it's in full release, but there are bugs in that game that have been in that game since beta. People still joke about it, and they just never fixed them. And they know they're there because everybody knows they're there. And a lot of them are more exploits that people will use for stuff. But yeah, they're always updating that game. In fact, they just released a snapshot for the next version of 1.8 on Thursday, because they usually do snapshots on Thursdays, and they're constantly updating that game. I mean, Mojang makes so much money off of that they can do that. I mean, they have a group of developers. That's their whole job. Is just to keep improving Minecraft.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think one of the reasons Minecraft was so successful is I didn't play it in the alpha. I didn't play Minecraft until it was very late beta. But one of the things that I remember is that people would complain about problems, but there were always people working on it. There were always people improving the game. Even if they weren't fixing all of the bugs, they were trying to make the game better.
Yes.
And with this constant presence of someone there trying to make the game better, I think players felt like their money was more deserved. Yes,
very much so. Because like right now, even the developers for Minecraft at Mojang, the major one is his name he goes by is Dinnerbone, and then another guy named Jeb. They're the two major developers behind Minecraft, and so they are very interactive with the community. Like, you'll see them post on the subreddit for Minecraft all the time. They'll do stuff with some of the major Minecraft YouTubers. They keep in touch with them. They're very interactive on Twitter, and so they know what the problems are in the game, and they're working for them. And like right now, a lot of the stuff they're working on was things they realized. Like, they realized the enchanting system in the game was kind of jokey, and they're like, it's just you put something in there, press a button, and pray you get something that's not garbage, and 9 times out of 10 you did. So they're changing it. They're like, we're making it better so it's not as much of a just gamble. You know, you kind of know what you're getting, because the players have been wanting that for a long time. And when they do these updates to the game, they'll listen to people about that, and they'll make the changes that people desire. But a lot of these other companies, they're not doing that. That's not what their point of this stuff is. They're just making games. Like, I mean, the DayZ guys, they released it. They warned everybody, hey, this is really buggy. It's early alpha. And it's still pretty good for an early alpha game. Starbound is basically the predecessor to Terraria. It's the same guys, and it's a lot more developed. And it's beta, but it's actually really good.
Yeah, I've heard some good things about that one.
Yeah, I like it a lot. There's another game now called Rust that's in early access. And Rust is another one of these kind of crafting survival games. And it's like super alpha. Like, it's really ridiculous how alpha it is. But people play it and they love it. But the thing is like, people have made all these complaints about it to the developers. Like, hey, these are a lot of the bugs you need to fix and do things with. But the developers they're not really saying anything about it. Yeah. So
I've
maybe
seen
they're working
for that. It looks good.
Yeah, maybe they're working on it. Maybe they aren't. We don't know, because they're not really giving that kind of feedback to the community that people like the Jeb and Dinnerbone and Mojang do for Minecraft.
Right, and I think that's really important. I think my biggest problem with DayZ, because I played it back when it was a add-on for Arma 2. It was a mod for Arma 2. And my problem is that the mod for Arma 2 looks like it was more stable than what they have out right now in their alpha.
Well, it probably was, because they were just using Arma 2, and they just had to create like the little things to change it to make it into DayZ. But this DayZ is an actual complete standalone game. They have to start from scratch. So, and they've even said that they're like, we plan on bringing all that stuff in from that, but it's a time thing. You know, it's going to take time to do it.
Yeah, but okay. Here's my thing. Have you played DayZ?
Yeah,
the new one. The new one.
No, not the new one. No,
okay.
I've watched people, but I haven't played it.
Right. I watched several of the videos, and I have a friend who has a copy. Or he paid the $30, which I still think is crazy. It's $30 for an alpha, but all of them have been playing it, and I've been watching these videos, and it almost looks unplayable. Like, so many of the zombies either glitch past your attacks, or you just can't attack them, or they go through walls to kill you, or there's items you can't pick up. I mean, this is...
And I say, go look what they said. This is an alpha game. It's going to be very buggy. And so you can't complain, because you paid your money and they warned you in advance.
My thing is, I think there's a difference between very buggy and unplayable. And I think it's almost on that unplayable line.
I mean, it's debatable. They'd say, well, you're able to sign in and do stuff, aren't you? Yeah, but the monsters are unkillable. Well, that's the bug. We're trying to fix that. It goes back to the old Sony Interactive thing they used to say with EverQuest. Something would go completely wrong, and it was like in the game, and they'd be like, well, it's working as intended.
Yeah. So
we're looking into the problem.
So my question is, why have you not paid $30 for the DayZ?
Because I don't... This is my problem with early access games. I play it while it's an alpha or beta. I don't care by the time it's full release. So all that stuff you put into the full release version, I'll never even get to see because I'm going to be bored of it by then.
So you personally will get burnt out by the time they finish the game.
Oh yeah,
if they finish the game.
Yeah, I know that's the problem. That's why the only time I'll do them, if I'll buy one, is if it's like something that's a good deal. Like I'll see like, hey, this week it's $10. When it's full release, it'll be 30 or 40. I'm like, well, I plan on getting it anyways. I'll get it now, and I usually never end up playing it.
Well, I'll put it this way though. Let's say everybody's like you, and by the time it does come out full release, all the people who were playing in the alpha are burnt out. And so then you have a much smaller player base for the game by the time it actually comes out.
But you've already made your money.
From a company standpoint,
Yeah.
there's no problem with that. I'm
from a
talking about
multiplayer
from a
standpoint.
gamer standpoint.
Yeah.
That
I don't know. That
cuts
could be a
down
good and a
seriously.
bad thing.
True. I mean, maybe it's just me. There's a lot of griefing in that game.
Yeah, Rust is the
So-
same way.
So maybe it's not the worst thing.
Yeah, it just kind of depends on the game. Like, Rust and DayZ are very much complete multiplayer. Like, I don't even think there's single player in either one of those. You have to play multiplayer.
Oh,
And,
yeah. I'm pretty sure.
And so that could be a good thing that people are burned out on it. But it could be a very bad thing, too, because some people have been playing this so long, they know where stuff spawns, they know the ins and outs, they know the quick routes and things like that. So it's probably going to put people who are just coming into it at a disadvantage most of the time.
And I know I'm kind of harping on the $30 price tag, but weren't you telling me about something called
Planetary Annihilation.
It's
$60. Yeah.
I can't imagine. I spend $60 on a console game, and I know there's a giant argument for sometimes they release console games that aren't finished, or that they're going to add in everything later. There's a lot of debacles we could go into with that, but if I'm paying $60 for something, I really do expect it to be not just playable, but to be pretty damn good.
Yeah, and I don't know anybody bought Planetary Annihilation because the joke was when it popped up on Steam at $60, everybody's like, are you serious? That is ridiculous. I mean, even when the Steam sale's in place, I think it was as cheap as 50, but 50? No. I mean, come on. This game's not even done yet. Don't get me wrong, it looks cool, but not for $60 when it's not done. I wouldn't even spend $60 on it when it was done.
Yeah, I think they're asking too much. That's crazy.
I mean, like, some companies are, they're doing the early access thing and they're doing it right. Like Star Citizen's one that a lot of people are talking about that looks really good, and they haven't actually gone into any kind of early access yet, but they're going to do one when they get to that point. But that's one of those games that the joke is, will this ever even come out? They've been working on it forever.
They have been, and they've made a ton of money from what I've been reading.
Yeah, because people donate.
Buku bucks. And that's the thing. People are looking at Minecraft and Star Citizen and a couple of others, and they're saying, this is an incredibly viable business model. You can do this, and people, like you said, who are, a small team can make a major game by doing something like this. But I really think all it's going to take is a few more duds like DayZ pissing everybody off, or it's going to take one company to actually not deliver and just come out and say, oh, well, we're actually not going to finish the game. And I know no company, hopefully no one is stupid enough to actually do that. They'll just keep pushing it off if they're smart.
I want to say there's been some through Kickstarter maybe, but I don't know. I couldn't find any evidence of it, but I want to remember that I'd heard about them. Now, some of the problems with the Kickstarter side of it is that I've kickstarted a couple games, and they'll put these dates on there like, oh, we plan, to have this game out by January 2015. Well, January 2015 comes out, and they're like, yeah, we don't know when this is coming out.
Right.
And so, as somebody's kickstarted it, you're like, well, I don't even care about this anymore, so whatever.
Yeah,
but
I was reading the other day, a lot of people are saying if you look, very few things from Kickstarter have actually come to fruition through there very strongly. The only thing that really you can say has not only finished, not only made their money, but improved upon it and really come out was Cards Against Humanity.
That's probably, that's the outlier, because they're the only few. Like, I mean, there are other products that have come out of there, but I don't think there's been things that have come out of there that have been like, holy crap, groundbreaking, making tons of money. That's probably the exception.
That's what they're talking about, is like, not only did this come out, but it came out and was successful, or it's going to inspire more. I just have my cards down on Kung Fury, and once that comes out and is successful, I'll back everything.
Well, the problem too with Kickstarters, it's like, I was reading people who've done them, and they're like, well, we underestimated. You know, we offered all these goals, like if you give this much, we'll give you shirts, we'll give you stickers, and blah blah blah. Like, we spent so much money on shirts and stickers, we almost couldn't afford to do what we had originally got the money to do. It's like, well, you should have thought about that. Yeah. You know, that should have gone into how much money you needed, but we didn't want to ask too much money because then people wouldn't have given it. Well, then maybe your project shouldn't have happened.
Right. Maybe you needed a better business plan. You know.
I mean, one of the only Kickstarters that I remember doing that, like, I was very pleased with being a part of was there's a group called Approaching Nirvana. They do a lot of music, like electronic music, and a lot of it's been used on YouTube stuff because they're pretty much open for people on YouTube to use it. But at the time, they were kickstarting an album, and they're like, you're not paying for the album. They're like, we're going to give you the album, but what you're paying for this Kickstarter is actually being used for is to bring one of the guys who lived in South Africa to bring him to America so they could record together. They're like, because recording in two different continents is very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
And we want to bring him here. And he's going to get a visa and live here. And they got enough money, and it financed him to move over, which was what they needed for him to be able to work on the album.
That's cool.
And so, and he still lives here, and they're still very much about, like, giving back to the community and stuff like that. And that album was really good. And that's one of the few exceptions to the stuff I've Kickstarted where I was really pleased with. Most of the time, it's just kind of like, oh, I forgot this was even coming out. Finally came out. I think the only other one was the Shadowrun game I Kickstarted. That was really good.
Yeah. So, going back to something you said earlier, I'm just kind of curious, what is Notch doing now?
So Notch is like the CEO of Mojang, but he's actually working on a new game, but it's just him. And he's very slow about. I mean, you got the kind of money that him and that company have. Right. You can just do what you want to do. I mean, if you think about it, Minecraft still makes money.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh.
And they have other games too, like Scrolls, and there's another one I can't remember the name of.
It just came out on the PS3, I believe.
Minecraft.
Yeah. Because it was really late coming out there, but I know the numbers weren't like crazy, but just they were still selling decently on PS3. And I mean, if you just think about it, you could have had it on your PC or Xbox long ago. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, that's proof right there. Minecraft can still make money.
Well, a lot of the Minecraft YouTubers will say that they'll have people talk to them who watch them but who don't own Minecraft, who've never played it.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, it's just kind of baffling to them that there's people who love watching them, but they've never played it. You know, and sometimes as kids, like, you have to think that they're kind of pitching to a younger audience. Well, as kids grow up and their friends start playing it, then they want to play it, so they need to go. Their parents have to buy them a copy. Right, that's what keeps it going. Yeah. Is that it's that younger audience. It's not like more and more older people are buying it because they probably already have it if they're going to get it. It's the younger people that keep playing it. And some people have multiple accounts, too. Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah. I do because you can't change your name.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
I didn't like the name I used because I used it to create the account. I didn't know that was permanent. So I was like, I don't want that. So I changed it.
Yeah. No, I can definitely understand that. And I bought it on the PC and on the Xbox. So total, they've gotten about $45 worth of my money.
There you go. There you go.
And I think that does prove that whether we feel that it's really destroying PC gaming or not, it's going to be here for a little while at least.
I think it's a fad, though. I don't think it's a permanent thing. I think people are going to do it. It's going to take a few people to get burned in some bad situations, and then people will shy away from it, and it won't happen. I already know people are like, I'm not buying these early access games anymore. I buy them, they're not done, I don't finish them, and I never get to really see what the game's about when it's finished.
Right, and I definitely... I mean, I said that earlier. I think enough people are going to have bad experiences. You're going to get a couple more DayZs or even something worse. You know, I know I'm harping on DayZ a lot, but that's because I really want that game to be better. But the truth is that something worse is probably going to come out, and it's probably going to charge $30 or $40, and everybody's going to go, why did I spend $40 on this?
But you need to think about this. You keep saying when it comes out. It's going to come out. Technically, DayZ's in early access. It's not out yet. Maybe when it is done, it will be fine. There won't be these bugs. This game is still alpha. What you're saying is the exact problem people are having. They don't remember when they buy this game. It's not done yet. It's basically like going to a car lot and saying, like, I need that car right now. They're like, well, we haven't done finish painting it and putting the upholstery on the inside. I don't care. I want it right now. All right, get in and drive. And the car's not painted and the seats aren't upholstered and you're complaining about it. You bought a product that wasn't done, being told it wasn't done. And that's the problem people are harping on. Don't harp on it. It's your fault. You shouldn't have bought it. If you didn't buy it, then you wouldn't have this problem. You could wait till it was done.
And my thing is, that's why I have not paid the $30 for it, because I want them. I would rather they go finish it, and if everybody else wants to go jump on the early access thing, cool. That's good for them. I'd rather them go finish it. My issue is, I really don't think it's going to come out anytime soon. I don't think it's going to be done anytime soon.
It won't. It's already running late. That's why they put it out as early access. It was running later than they had told people, and people were freaking out. And so basically make people shut up. They're like, okay, here's the early access to it. But it's really early alpha. Yeah. So, I mean, part of that is people's fault. People were begging for it to come out. Like, that's one of the things I remember when I worked at GameStop. People used to be crazy about these games. Why does it keep getting delayed? I'm like, because it's not done. I'm like, do you want them to release something that's not done and suck? Or do you want to wait 3 extra months and then get a game that's good and completed?
Right. That's why when Watch Dogs got delayed, I want Watch Dogs to be very good. Because it's something I'm really looking forward to. I'm okay with them pushing it back a few months. When Grand Theft Auto 5 got delayed, I was okay with that because I knew that Rockstar was going to take the extra time and try to make it better.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that if someone does pay the $30, knowing what they're getting, and then still complains about the game, sure. Most of what I have seen has been people kind of almost making funny videos like, let me show you how I can't do anything here,
Yeah. I mean, that's fine, but they knew what they were getting when they bought it.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how it is. They tell you in advance, this game's not done, so be prepared. And then you get it, you're like, wait a minute, this game's not done. Duh, I just told you it wasn't done. So, but the other thing is, like, you wanted it that bad, $30, you've got it. It's not like when it comes out, you have to spend another $30.
Right.
You've still got it.
And that, I think, is a good thing because let's say, like you said, let's say Steam does a sale or someone. So you get it for $25. Even if you don't install that game until it's done, you still got it for $25. You don't have to pay any more money, and you probably got it a lot cheaper than what the finished version was going to cost.
Yeah, that's true.
So there is, in my opinion, that's like one of the few things. Like, I've been watching a lot of videos for another early access game called 7 Days to Die or 7 Nights to Die, something like that. And I actually think it's obviously very similar to DayZ, but I think it looks better in my opinion. And that's when I think when it does go on sale next time, I'll probably get it and do exactly that. I'll probably leave it uninstalled on my computer for how many ever months. And then once people start saying, oh no, it's really coming together, I'll probably install it and try it.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to be it for this episode of Comics and Controllers. So if you want to email us, maybe send us your opinions on all new X-Men or early access games, or have something you want to hear us talk about, you can email us at comicsandcontrollers@gmail.com. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at ZombieJesus here. Where can they follow you at, Steven?
On Twitter as well at Stephen Wilds.
All right. So until next time, I'm Kyle.
I'm Steven.
Have a good one.